Welcome to News Laundry Chota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. We are back with the 349th episode of Hafta. Well, on the panel today, we have Manisha Pande here in office.
Hello.
Raman Kirpal, who is back, I guess, after... You were back last week?
I was there.
Okay, you were there
Hi.
last week. Joining us on the phone line from Delhi is Ritu Sarin. Hi, Ritu.
Hi, nice to be here.
Well, nice to have you. Just, I'm sure most of our listeners already know who you are, but those who are joining us new or college kids who are just getting into the habit of listening to news through podcasts, Ritu Sarin is executive editor of investigation at the Indian Express, and she's been there for a while. She's also a member of the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, which is ICIJ, for 2 decades. She's written the book, The Assassination of Indira Gandhi. It was published in 1990. And this ICIJ is the consortium that has recently done this investigation that has been released the world over, which are called the Pandora Papers. So we will be talking about that. I'm sure you've seen that on the front page of the Indian Express, and it's made headlines in the BBC. In fact, BBC had a full half-an-hour show on that 2 days ago, and France 24, etc. Also joining us after his break, he was on a 10 or 12-day break, is Anand Vardhan. Hi Anand, how are you?
Hello, I am fine.
You're in Patna, or are you in Bombay or elsewhere?
No, in Patna right now.
Okay, so welcome Anand. We missed you on the Hafta for the last 2 weeks, so we hope you have lots to say today. So before we get into discussing, the Panama Papers and other things that grabbed headlines this week, let's see what were the headlines, Manisha.
Yes. 4 farmers among 8 people were killed during protests in Uttar Pradesh Lakhimpur Kheri district. Opposition leaders, except from the TMC and RLD, were detained on way to meet families of those killed in the violence. Congress leaders Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi managed to reach last night, and there are pictures of them from there hugging the family of the farmers who were killed in the violence. The violence in Uttar Pradesh's Lakhimpur Kheri district was a well-planned conspiracy by Union Minister Ajay Mishra. This is what an FIR says in the case. There are 2 FIRs that have been filed so far. Press Council seeks report from UP government on journalists killed in Lakhimpur Kheri violence. The Supreme Court, meanwhile, has taken suo motu cognizance of the issue. Meanwhile, it has also said that why should farmers be protesting when the issue is before the court? That was a curious observation.
Said, day before yesterday.
In fact, right now there's news coming in, and these are just early news. I read something on NDTV about a BJP MP's car hitting protesters in Ambala, and 1 person has been injured, but we don't have much detail on this.
And we are recording this on the 7th of October, Thursday at 3:20 p.m. So by the time you hear this, some of the stuff we're going to discuss may have got more clarity.
Varun Gandhi and his mother Menaka Gandhi have been removed from the BJP National Executive. This is after Varun Gandhi put out some very strong words of condemnation on Twitter on the Lakhimpur Kheri incident. Pandora Papers, a big investigation led by Indian Express in India. Sachin Tendulkar, Anil Ambani, fugitive Nirav Modi's sister, the husband of Kiran Majumdar Shaw, have been named in revelations based on over 1.19 crore confidential documents. These documents were from 14 offshore service firms that allegedly set up shell companies for clients who sought to keep their financial activities discreet. A spree of civilian killings, 7 in the past 10 days, including 2 teachers shot dead as gunmen barge into school in Srinagar today. It has come at a time when union ministers are on a 9-week outreach program in Jammu and Kashmir. Normal life in Manipur was completely thrown out of gear as a result of the 24-hour shutdown which began from October 3rd midnight. This is because a social worker was allegedly abducted and then murdered, and there's been no action on this case. Siddiqui Kappan did not write like a quote-unquote responsible journalist. This is the UP police's accusation against Kappan, because of which they want him in jail. So the police is deciding how journalists should write and what is responsible or not. Arguments over flags erupt in communal violence in Chhattisgarh's Kabir Dham. Some pretty harrowing videos emerging out of there. This has developed over the past 48 hours. An estimated 3,000 strong mob led by Hindu organizations defied curfew There are also images of them taking down flags and planting a saffron flag and sloganeering. Fuel rates have hit record as global oil prices near a 3-year high. The rates were increased for a second consecutive day. Court warns police officer of action for lack of preparation during hearing of Delhi riots. Meanwhile, the judge who slammed the Delhi police for callous Delhi riots case probes has been transferred.
So now this case will be heard by another judge.
The centre proposes to amend Forest Conservation Act to ease norms for border infrastructure projects. The existing norms to obtain approval from non-forestry use of forest land often delay strategic and security projects. That's the government's explanation for this move. Meanwhile, the Uttarakhand government wants to rename the Jim Corbett National Park as Ramganga National Park. Very creative. 8 people, including Aryan Khan, were detained from a rave party aboard a luxury cruise liner in Mumbai on Saturday. Some 12 grams of cocaine was seized and some 25 grams of charas, though it is said that there was no drugs found on Aryan Khan. A BJP worker and a self-styled detective from Malaysia who's facing a forgery case in Pune are at the center of political row in Maharashtra because they were seen hanging around and clicking selfies with Aryan Khan when this drug bust happened. So there's
also video of them actually handling Aryan Khan and taking him into the
they
NCB
were
office.
Pretty much assisting the NCB, so it's curious why. Meanwhile, Taliban leader Anas Haqqani has praised Mahmood Ghazni, who attacked Somnath temple, and kind of praised the fact that idols of Somnath was smashed. So this was also quite a lot of news in terms of the messaging that this sends to India.
And with those headlines, we'll come to the discussion. But before we do that, I have one quick announcement to make. Many of you know that there are new RBI guidelines on recurring and auto payments. And since News Laundry doesn't run on advertising, it only runs on your subscriptions. And thank you so many of you, thousands of you who do subscribe to ensure that we have the resources for our journalists to go and do on-ground reportage. Like 3 of them did go to Lakhimpur, and right now I think we have 2 more who will be traveling soon. You will have to take the additional kind of inconvenience of having to subscribe every month because the recurring has led to a lot of failures. In fact, last week we saw a 40% dip because of the failures, the recurring not happening. So I have 2 solutions. One is, of course, if you're really diligent, every month, please renew your subscription, and because the recurring may not work. And if your subscription has been cancelled because of this recurring problem, you can just get a 1-year or a 6-month subscription. You can email me at abhinandansekhri@newslaundry.com. I repeat, abhinandansekhri@newslaundry.com if there's any issue, or if you want a longer subscription so you don't have to come back every month. I'd really appreciate if you do that so that we can continue with the work we do without worrying about cash flows, because that is the biggest challenge for media these days, which is why they resort so heavily on Yogi ji's ads, Kejriwal's ads, Modi ji's ads, and sometimes even ads from the Telangana government are on Delhi papers. So on that note.
So I think it may be a recurring theme because this time ICIJ has got 14 service providers, data of 14 service providers, and the time period for the records is almost 2 decades,
Right.
So the offshore companies we are writing about, their incorporation years are from 1971 to 2018, as current as 2018. I've done one story which there are company details for 2020, that's just last year.
Right.
In terms of the large numbers, you've seen them, 11.9 million records. That's 11.9 million documents.
Right.
Number of media partners is again a record, 150. And the number of journalists are 617.
Wow, okay.
So, and what they normally do is also once a project ends, some media organizations who are interested and were not in the project are also invited subsequently. So the 600 plus will probably even go up further.
So,
but what I want to tell you is the fascinating manner in which we collaborate. That is really, it's an experience for any journalist, because you virtually have a global newsroom where 600 people can, from across the world, countries, even territories, even small territories on the globe were included this time, can collaborate, share ideas, share reactions, plus it's quite complicated in the sense that if Sri Lanka is carrying the story on day 1, I cannot carry it on day 2. Or if the Pakistan story is coming day 3, that means I also have to carry my story on day 3, that kind of thing, So it's quite amazing the way we have this newsroom, which is called the Global Eye Hub, which is moving 24/7. And the idea being you have to share leads. You can't keep leads, not share them. So the essence of investigative journalists mostly is to, keep everything under wraps.
Right.
So,
Here you have to share it with that entire large group.
That's right. So it really turns what you have practiced all these years when you're in a collaborative project like this one.
So how do you break it up? I mean, I'm sure there has to be one person who's like coordinating with, you can't be going through documents and coordinating at the same time. So I'm sure there's like a pyramidal structure where, whether it is through sectors, zones, or page numbers, or, geographies, that someone is coordinating who's doing what, right? It must be, because some papers that you're examining, there may be some, thread that ties into someone that another team is examining, right? So like, who coordinates that? Okay, Ritu's papers has some, thread that ties in with Mr. X sitting in Luxembourg's papers. How do you guys do that?
Electoral gains, is one of my recommendations also. The wonderful article by Pramod Kumar in Indian Express, the central piece on the editorial page. Basically, Lakhimpur, if you see, is largely populated, with Sikh. I think about 1.73 lakh Sikhs stay there. Politically, they are not so much relevant, but and that is why the upper Hindu caste, the politicians, they look, at this particular community as irrelevant, politically irrelevant. Okay. Now, politically speaking, Sikhs do not matter there, and that is why some people say that this attack has happened because of that, because they don't want Sikh votes.
It's not going to swing the election.
But an attack like this is definitely, brings further divide. Like many upper caste Hindus are moving away from the farmers, Sikh farmers, and this is going to be quite evident in Punjab. And of course, it will have repercussions in UP too. So far as the polarization is concerned. But more importantly, this is the politics of politics of this incident. But the incident in itself, the most important thing is whether it was premeditated or not. Okay, even before whether these farmers were mowed down with a purpose or not.
Or was it heat of the moment thing?
Or it was just heat of the moment. It wasn't heat of the moment.
Manisha?
There are 2 or 3 things that are annoying at me, given the coverage that we've seen. One is, I think we still haven't been able to establish where this Ashish Mishra was. And it's quite curious that we have so many videos. It's literally one video from one side, then the other from another side. To quote Bhupender Chaube, of all the people, there's a sort of a video war.
We've hit a new low in Hafta. Bhupender Chaube has been quoted.
Quoting Bhupender. No, but okay, there are multiple videos coming out. But it's quite curious that there's no video from between 3 to 5 p.m. when this incident is said to have occurred around 4:30. Now, if this guy was at the dangal, we have videos from 2:30 which show him. How is it that it's just not available from 3 to 5? I can understand from
there's
the farmers.
There's no video of this guy between.
There's no. So, now, and this is the irritating thing sometimes of doing stories like this, is you can't hit at the truth of what really happened, because it's very central to this. Was this guy in one of the cars or not? And I think from the scene of crime, it's very hard maybe to get a video of him, because there would have been mayhem.
Correct.
We've seen the videos, but at least from the dangal, there should be a video of him between 2 to 5. It's quite amazing that for 2 hours suddenly there's a blackout and no one knows where he was. Second, I think we have done a story on the driver of this guy, Ashish Mishra. He's been with him for 6 years, from a very poor, poverty-stricken family, has siblings to take care of, has an aged father who's not mentally well. He's the only sole breadwinner. And it is very hard to believe that this driver could have had the gumption to decide to ram into a crowd of protesters like that.
I will come to that. I think that is a deft handling that political parties need to do. That what is the point at which a person becomes a political liability? So I will come to that later. I think uh, as the facts of the case are still in the process of being established by the police district administration, and probably a judicial probe has also been ordered by a retired high court judge. So these findings of the district magistrate, superintendent of police, or the later the judicial probe may have s- more details. More details, people may believe or not, but they would. There, it is mandatory to give more and more details. So until now, what little I have read, the construction of the events is not clear for me, at least. So, hmm, but it has elements of political violence, and a violence of a particular type that not in my professional capacity, just by mm, being a bystander or passing by, I have been witness to because of the place I come from, and violence of a type that is orchestrated by the strongmen of the area, the dabangs, and say their say, brass, what is white brass or brass sons, or the influence wielding people, and they may be violence orchestrated by the local strongman or the bang of the area. Now, to get their rich run, they sometimes indulge in such impulsive actions, which ultimately is a criminal act with disastrous results, as we saw. So that is one point. Second, your question, yes, his father is not a heavyweight in Delhi. Maybe in the region he would be a heavyweight. Also, I think there is a competition in UP among parties to get the Brahmin vote. And Mr. Yogi Adityanath's image of leading anti-Brahmin crackdown like Vikas Dubey or criminal gangs, basically, but and he may be another addition to it. Now, uh, that would be an initial deterrent, maybe. That's my speculation. But giving in the mass of if the mass of evidence comes to a critical point where it would be counterproductive, and then it would be a liability. Even Samajwadi Party, Mayawati's बहुjan Samaj Party, are trying to get the Brahmin vote with their posturings in recent months. So the fear of losing Brahmin vote in the region may be one of the deterrents that that is my guesswork. But I think it has now come to a point where when he is a liability, and sooner or later action would be taken.
So, I mean, I think one thing is clear that anyone who was, a harsh critic of both sides had to acknowledge that no one was beyond sacrifice in the BJP. Other than Modi and Shah, who could do what the hell they wanted, everybody else, if they fell out of line, they were dispensable. Clearly, those days are over. If you are a VIP brat, the only difference is those VIP brats were educated at Doon School and overseas. These VIP brats are either not educated or they're educated in a local school. Otherwise, there's no difference in them. The way they roam around, and this is not the first time a brat, this guy's gone so far as to kill someone. But there have been other videos of the guy sitting on a cop's car, 2 years ago.
Beating up a public
beating up
servant in
people.
Madhya Pradesh, there was a video
So
that...
I think so. So it's just that they, may not have the kind of, elite upbringing as far as schools and colleges are concerned, but they're as idiotic and as vile. That is clear now. But one thing that I think is now increasingly clear is the role of the media. We've seen a lot of low points in the media, but now the kind of justification, even like someone like, for example, let's take Rahul Kamal, or even Shiv Arur. I mean, I may not like the channel, but they were not by themselves that, they weren't Om Kashyap's and what's that other one's name? Gaurav Sawant's, But how careful they are when they're talking to the BJP. Like questions that you should be asking. Like Swati Chaturvedi sitting, shouldn't you be asking them this? Dude, you're the journalist, you ask. No. They don't have the guts to ask a question, so they'll get some other panelist. They'll say, वो पूछ रही है. तू journalist नहीं बना, तू क्यों बना है? Are you just there to repeat what? मतलब औकात ही नहीं है कुछ journalist की यार. मतलब इतना भद पीट दिया है. And they have the guts to block our YouTube channel. Then Vasu says, hi News Laundry team, I'm 17, would be turning 18 next month. Vasu, you shouldn't be listening to this podcast because we use expletives. And have been a subscriber for the last 6 months with his pocket money. Vasu, I am so impressed, man. Your pocket money. Be like Vasu, all you Mufat khors who are earning good money and still don't want to subscribe and then whine. Thank you, Vasu. So kind of you. Please
Really
encourage
sweet.
Adults from your family also.
So last email, You want me to read Charanpreet Singh Sethi's email? Hi Abhinandan, good to hear from you. I know there's some challenge with the subscription. I have been trying to work it out but couldn't. Believe me, I'm really conscious of getting back my subscription ASAP. I've enjoyed every bit of my subscription with News Laundry. I've been a student until recently and got my first salary after a study break today only. Yes.
Yay, Charan.
If
awesome.
you include this email in the next hafta, I'll upgrade my subscription too, courtesy next month's salary. Please
Yaar,
do. Thank you.
Charanjeet, I'm so
Very
touched.
sweet. Keep up the good work. Wonderful listening to you on Hafta. I love everything that Manisha, Atul, Nidhi put up on the website. Have few criticisms also. We'll write another mail for that. Please do, because we want to read our criticism more than our praise.
Yes,
it
thank
makes
you,
us
Charan.
better.
But Charanpreet, you just got a first job after, studying, and you have bought News Laundry subscription with that. And I can't tell you how impressed I am for all the, Sar Khapana uncle type saying this generation is this, generation is that.
Yeah. Would you ever have done this when you were a kid? I don't think
Meri
so.
औकात
I
नहीं
don't
थी.
think you seem like that kind of guy. So yeah, I mean,
मैं
please
अपनी-
appreciate the new
मैं
generation.
अपनी दुख भरी कहानी कभी और सुनाऊंगा तुम्हें. All of you listening in, the Chota Hafta, do subscribe so you can listen to the entire Hafta. We will see you again next week with the Hafta. Till then, subscribe, pay to keep news free, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Thank you. Goodbye.
All the News Laundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to News Laundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. सुन लिया अफ्रीका मुफत खोरों. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free. All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.